All right, we can find you like absolutely everywhere right now, Xavier Scruggs. So walk me through like where we'll find you for the 2024 season. You've got Bally Sports Sun, you've got MLB Network, ESPN. Where else are we going to see you?
Yeah, so at Bally Sports, actually, I'm not doing that moving forward. Just I love the Rays here, but it's just a situation to where I like enjoying more, using more of my time covering all the teams, right?
For
So
sure.
ESPN definitely mostly on Sunday Night Baseball. Before the pregame show, before the game, you'll see me on MLB Network. And then Apple games are expanding here Fridays as well. So hopefully you'll see me actually more at the park, especially with Apple. And then show and go, baby. Show and go with X is still going to be going on. It's more of a platform for me to dive in with players on the little nuances of the game, but also turning it into, once the season starts, more of a streaming type thing, like getting people involved with me in the conversation, more engagement. Like that's what I love, is like talking baseball with others, and maybe being able to dive into some things you don't normally see me dive into on linear platforms.
Let's jump into this new venture real quick. Sorry, show and go with X, because I mean, you guys are doing great stuff on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast too. I've watched the Kyle Tucker one. I just saw
Mm,
Ollie Marmol you had on. Gary Sheffield, the stance breakdown was excellent for somebody that grew up doing that with a wiffle ball bat.
yeah.
What are your plans kind of for the foreseeable future with show and go?
Yeah, I think just continuing to use my relationships in the game, and I want to extend it from, not just players, but as you've seen the last one with the manager. Like you don't often, not often we sit down with the manager for an hour and just get their personality. So whether that be front office guys, whether that be umpires, any personality within the game of baseball, and hopefully continuing to expand that and figure out the little nuances and intricacies of that person's profession. I think there's still so much of a world to cover, from an older generation of baseball, like you mentioned, the Gary Sheffield, to the younger generation of minor league players, prospects, college players. I'll have nobody really knows this, but I'll have Jack Caglione coming up on the podcast as well. So just diving into all types of personalities in the game and doing a little more than you might normally see on some other platforms.
And you and I and Jack and Arm and all of us have really connected because our goal is to expand the game of baseball, right? You see the
Yeah.
NBA, you see the NFL, you see these other sports. They have more of a lane in order to talk to players and expand their personalities and brands. And we just feel like baseball is kind of falling back in that area. But guys like you, hopefully guys like us, are trying to do that. So when you look forward to the next couple of years, I see all of your social media posts. They're always awesome. You're always giving, advice to players, advice to other media personalities, because you have both kind of in your back pocket. What are 2024, 2025, as you continue to do what you're already doing and killing it? What are some of those goals moving forward?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think a lot of those goals align with you guys, right? And trying to push it forward. Um, the main thing I think is that can still be tapped into is the brands, and how they can help the game, and continue to. And why I say that is, if you look at a Nike, if you look at an Adidas, a Rawlings, they've always done a great job of selling to the young generation. And I
Mm,
think that if we're able to use those brands, and I'm wearing a Franklin t-shirt right now,
Right.
because for my 2024, 2025 kind of looking forward, is how can I partner with brands to continue to push our game and sell our game and make it sexy, and do all those things that those brands are already familiar with doing with their own merchandise. So how can I equate that to Major League Baseball? How can I equate that to minor league baseball, college baseball, amateur baseball, and push that forward? Those are some of my main goals, and figuring out which brands align best with that, because I think those will be the ultimate answer. Because guys can always push their own platform, and what baseball is just still so stuck in some old school ways, that it's going to be tough for guys to continue to come out of their shells. We're starting to see it more and more, guys promoting themselves, and giving us more inside look, but ultimately it's the brands that know how to sell something specific. And I think they can help sell baseball more as looking cool or being something more sexy for the younger generation.
So I think one of the brands right now, and we saw some great, brand push at Walker Bueller's golf outing was Bruce
Mm.
Bolt. They had Bruce Bolt
Mm,
hats, they had the compression, like
yes.
everybody seems to have like a sliding mitt or something like that. You said that, and I started thinking about the fighting necklace craze. I'm sure
Mm,
you remember that, Peter.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
what was the it
Absolutely.
thing when you were playing? Was it like in terms of I needed to have that? Like, mom, get
Yeah.
me this for my birthday. I need this right now.
Yeah, that's a good question too. Man, I would think it was like those fighting things. Like, remember they had the little wrist ones too. Like I was
Mhm.
big on those. Um, and I just think like when I think about my early days, I keep thinking about like going from rubber cleats to metal cleats. And
Mm.
Yep.
like cleats was always something for me, that transition of that metal cleat and figuring out, is that going to be that Nike Clipper, that staple, whatever it may be. That was something that I always wanted, but it was almost like one of those things I couldn't have it for a while. So I like kept thinking about, I want the best metal cleats that you can get. So that was one of the staples for me. I remember Nike Diamond, like those things stick out to me big time.
For me, it was always the gloves. It was always the next glove, whether it was a Wilson A2K, whether it was a Rawlings Art
Yeah.
of the Hide. I was always into the glove, whether the next one, the catchers, because I played catcher, I played first base, did some
Mhm.
outfield pitcher. So I had all the different gloves, and those were my favorite to collect. What would you say go-to glove for you?
Go-to glove, man. I would say right now, like I'm loving this Stilo brand. That Stilo has come out with some great gloves that are trying to get more of that culture aspect to it.
Mm.
And they actually are really good gloves. I'm excited to see kind of what they have more in 2024. But I used Wilson, I used Rawlings. I played first base too, so like first base was important for me for the glove to have the right pocket. I remember Wilson was my favorite for that.
Yeah.
Playing third, I used the Rawlings. So man, those the gloves was huge because it was like, it was going to be an expense, but it was something that you could use and break in, and guys would always be wanting to use it too.
Yeah, we're talking with Xavier Scruggs, and I do want to get into kind of the winners and losers of the offseason. And we've talked about it kind of all offseason, right? Dodgers, Dodgers, it's the Dodgers, it's the Dodgers, it's Otani and Yamamoto, and you trade for Glass now, all this good stuff. By the way, Glass now, first guest on Show and Go with
Yes.
X. But aside from the Dodgers, who has really jumped out to you this offseason in terms of, hey, you got a lot better?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to go with the Yankees. I mean, you look at it seemed like the perfect fit to go get Juan Soto when you have an opportunity to go get maybe the game's best hitter, and pair him with Aaron Judge. Like you get a lot better. And then also you add an Alex Verdugo to that outfield. It seems like the outfield situation was just kind of had so many question marks surrounding it over the past couple years, and now you pretty much solidify it, being able to have Soto and Verdugo as those answering points. And Verdugo's a guy that I'm excited about because he seemed like he needed to get out of that Red Sox situation. It seemed like that wasn't the best situation for him. So you get good defense, you get a guy that gets on base and doing his thing. And then also I look at another team to me is definitely going to be the obviously the Dodgers is has to be there, but I look at the Giants. Them going out and signing Korean outfielder Jung Ho Lee. I think that's just as important as any move that we might see moving forward. Uh, I think that when you can add a superstar from another country, that's going to be big. I look at the Cubs. Both these teams, the Cubs and the Giants, still have work to do. But when you can add a guy like a Shota Imanaga and bring him over from Japan, that's big as well. So I look at the Yankees would be my top up there with the Dodgers, and then obviously some of these other teams falling in place as well.
Well, first off, I'm glad that you mentioned the Yankees because whenever I mention the Yankees on the show, I'm looked at as a biased idiot because I am a Yankee fan. But it's glad to see both of us on the same page. I agree. I think the Yankees have had a pretty underrated offseason. We forget they added Juan Soto, arguably the best hitter in Major League Baseball. My winner of the offseason isn't a team. How about just the international free agent class being a
Yeah.
winner? By
Mhm.
far the largest amount of money allocated to these guys coming over, right? We talk about Yoshinobu Yamamoto getting $325 million before he's even thrown a pitch. But how about Jung Hoo Lee, right?
Yeah.
Coming over from the KBO, $113 million for the KBO center fielder. You talked about Imanaga getting what, $53 million 4-year deal? How about Yariel Rodriguez, right? Shows
Mhm.
out in the WBC and then gets a 4-year deal as well. So my question for you moving forward, how do you see this international free agent class? I assume we're just going to see more and more money flooded in there, but I felt like this was a pretty impactful offseason because let's say Yamamoto comes over, struggles, right?
Yeah.
What if
Yeah.
Yariel Rodriguez never turns into anything, right? What if Jung Hoo Lee offensively just never gets it together? How do you
Mhm.
think front offices are going to then judge the international free agent class? Do you think they'll use this class as a starting point to judge future, or do you think it's just player by player?
Yeah, I think it's more player by player, but obviously a class can probably have a bigger impact on the immediate future, right? Guys being more careful the next couple of years. But you look at the success of some of these guys already, right? You look at what Otani has done after given some time. You look at even Kodai Senga, what he did with the Mets in his rookie season, and what we've seen with Seiya Suzuki and guys that have real potential, right? Um, but the one thing I also look at is like we're seeing more international like success in general. Like you want to be able to find the best guys. And I think that's a priority of these teams. And I even look at the Dodgers, like I think their priority is like, let's make sure the Dodgers are the mecca of where international players want to go now by
Mm.
giving Otani whatever the hell he wants and then bringing over Yamamoto as well. Like we want to be that team. And I think that can be said the same for multiple teams want to be like that, but ultimately, you're trying to find the best, right? And I think we see the money thrown at these guys because of these guys. The market was not great this year. Like the free agent market from an American standpoint, or just U.S. was not great as far as consistency. Think about who was at the top, like Bellinger and Snell at the top, and we still have question marks about them. So when you don't know about these guys, even Chapman can be grouped into that. You have to spend more money on the other guys, and that's kind of been the case too.
I just have a quick follow-up to that one. The story of the offseason. Xavier Scruggs, I have to ask you, right? You're on. Your thought process through the Otani signing, right?
Yeah.
He signs, first of all, it's with the Dodgers. You find out it's $700 million. It's almost a billion. I mean, just those words put together in the same sentence is crazy. Then you find out it's deferred. Can you kind of walk me through because it's the biggest free agent signing in sports history?
Probably.
Yeah, definitely. 700 million wasn't even the realm of what I was thinking. I know most people weren't even thinking that realm either. But at the same time, I look at you think about these owners, like think about their portfolios in general. I'm talking a business sense. Like they've done their homework on every asset that they own and how it makes them money. So for some reason that they're going to believe that $700 million is still going to make them more than that at some point. So that's the investment, obviously, for the Dodgers, but also I look at it too, the deferment to me made sense from a Shohei Otani standpoint because I know I'm making the money in endorsements, but also once I'm done playing with the Dodgers, if I want to live in Japan, my money is those $68 million a year not going to be taxed by Los Angeles tax money. Like it's not going to
Mm.
be California state tax there. So that also makes sense to me. And it makes sense for Otani if he really is committed to winning. How can I get the best players around me? And we saw that, right? We saw them get Yamamoto. We saw them go get Teoscar Hernandez when they're looking for an outfielder. We saw them make the trades to get Glass now and be able to pay him. Um, it makes sense once you start to actually think about it a little bit, but it is astronomical. It's like, where the hell did this team even get that type of money? And are we apt to see other teams do this moving forward?
So snowballing off both you guys, I think that makes a ton of sense. And I probably the way that the Dodgers ownership group is looking at it and the way that Andrew Friedman and the rest of the Dodgers front office is looking at it is how are we going to earn the $700 million back? And you guys both know it as well as anybody. Eyeballs equals financial gain. Like you get eyes, you get money. I saw, and I didn't think Taylor Swift was going to come up, but I saw like Taylor Swift has generated her presence around the NFL has generated $440 million worth of social media traction for the NFL and for the Kansas City Chiefs. Think about like cornering the Asian market on the Dodger
Yeah.
front. They get Otani, they get Yamamoto, they get all those eyeballs, they get all those social media views. That in turn generates revenue for them. So it is amazing. And I'm almost looking at it, and I think I brought this up a couple of months ago in the way that Colorado approached the Deion Sanders thing, where the AD at Colorado said, we don't have the money yet, but we know we will have it. They got the
Right.
money because of Deion's presence.
Right.
And the Dodgers, it seems like they're going to get the money because of Otani's presence.
Yeah. And I look at even, there's so many brand partnerships that we don't even think about. Yes, American wise, we think about these brands, but think about the Japanese brands that are just as big over there that the Dodgers are going to be able to partner with now. They'll get some exclusive Otani footage of whatever content they need, whatever type of merchandising goes on in that situation. So that there's a lot that comes a lot that comes to it that we don't even think about.
Greater contract question. It seems like regardless of talent in these free agent classes, the money continues to go up and up. And you mentioned this was a pretty weak American free agent class. Do you think moving forward, and like loaded question asked somewhat simply, do you think moving forward, it doesn't matter what the class looks like, the money's just going to keep going?
It seems like that, at least with like inflation and everything else that
Right.
kind of goes on. Um, but also I think, these teams are making that much more money with a lot of these streaming deals and these TV rights and all that stuff. So I think with the Players Association knowing that information now and the players knowing that information, I think we continue to see salaries go up and up and up and into areas and maybe we don't expect.
A player who is on the free agency market next year, Juan Soto, you already kind of mentioned him. We're talking about money just going through the roof. What do you think he's going to get?
Yeah, I think he ends up getting more than he turned down. 440 million was it that he turned down? I think he ends up getting more than that at this point. Um, he could be around 500, could be more than that. At the same time, I look at, he could go out there and have a monster season this year and just blow everything out of the water and become even a higher paid player than we could think at this moment too. So I'm excited to see what he does end up getting, but I think it will be up there around $500,000 or $500 million.
Half a million?
Half, I
Would
would
take
love
that
half
on
a
the
million.
Yankees. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
just take a discount.
I, I'm curious, X, if you have any teams that jump to mind that are kind of frustrating you this winter. And it's like, hey, why aren't you going for it to the level that we think you should? And you mentioned the
Yeah.
Yankees and the Dodgers really going after it. San Francisco, I think Arizona and Cincinnati have really gone after it too. But are there teams that have kind of sat idle that you're like, come on, we're running out of time. Let's get moving?
Definitely. I look at first and foremost, the Mets. I thought that was a team that could possibly make some more moves than what they have what they've already made. Obviously, David Stern's coming over as the new president of operations, and then you have a new manager. You get some different things under the fold, but a New York team, like I just expect them to do so much more, especially after what we've heard Cohen talking about beforehand, right? Really trying to be the pretty much the Dodgers of the East. We didn't see them spend like that at all. So that's one of the teams. Another one of the teams has been the Boston Red Sox, of course. Uh, yeah,
Full throttle.
another new GM, president of operations, and Craig Breslow. But they've done some things that I think can kind of set up a foundation moving forward. They're just like handcuffed as far as the money goes, it seems like. So it'll be interesting if they even go get more, if they still need more pitching. I think that's going to be important for them. Um, Who else has been disappointing to me?
Uh,
It's been a slow offseason too, though. So a lot of these teams could end up doing more than what we could expect later on. Like the Giants could end up doing more. Same thing with the Cubs. Like I could consider the Cubs a team that's like they could have a blowout offseason if they go get Cody Bellinger and are able to add, Matt Chapman as well or something like that. So we'll see.
what do you think about the Blue Jays offseason? I don't know whether to put them in the loser. I don't think they're in the winner category, but I can't really put them in the loser either, right? They just signed Justin Turner to that 1-year deal. They did get Yariel Rodriguez. They brought back Kevin Kiermaier. So they're not doing nothing, but they're also not making me excited.
Right.
They got duped on Otani, which of course isn't really their fault. That is MLB's media's fault. But I just don't know where to place them. What are your thoughts on this offseason in Toronto?
Yeah, I don't think they're done yet, too. Like that's the case for I think a lot of these teams is kind of where they're still a little bit waiting and patient. I don't think they're not going after Bellinger, but they supposedly could be in on like Snell too. So I don't think they're done. I think offensively, if they go get a JD Martinez, that could obviously be huge. They may not go get him because that'd be another right-handed older bat that they just got with Justin Turner. So I would consider it disappointing if they don't do anything else, or if they even if go get a Brandon Belt or something like that. I would still consider it disappointing, especially after expectations were like a superstar, like a Shohei Otani at first, then a Yamamoto and a Bellinger. Like none of those things landed. So I would consider it a disappointing offseason if they don't get another impact piece.
Yes or no question. Do you think Blake Snell's going to get $200 million?
I don't. I think it could be close with the Angels. I don't
Yeah.
I
What do
don't
you think
think
to
it
say?
will be like obviously the Yankees, we heard them in at what it was like closer to 160 or something like that. So um I think that's where most teams will be willing to go, but the Angels could be willing to go a lot higher than most teams.
I love the Angels take. I just don't even know what they are. I don't even know if
Right.
they're a real baseball team. I have no idea what they even are.
Well, I looked at
Let's
the Angels roster today and I was kind of thinking like
X.
the
I do the same
roster
thing every year. I do the same
is
thing every year. I'm like, wait a minute.
it's
Wait a minute.
not
I'm
it's
kind of buying
not
in.
bad. It's not bad.
Yeah,
It's
but it
just
ain't
like
good.
when you look at from a pitching standpoint, you don't really have an ace. And then you look over towards Texas Rangers, you look over toward the Astros, you look over toward the Mariners, like those teams are all doing things impactful even in the offseason after having really good teams anyway. So it's just going to be tough for them.
Yeah.
Let's talk breakouts. So in the last episode, we went over ours. We'll throw a couple of ours at you quickly, right? Because we already went over it, but I'd love to pick your brain on who you think is going to
Mm,
be a big breakout because you've been so good at this. My big guy is Tarek Skubal this year. And it's not really a breakout because we know he's good. I just
mhm.
think he can elevate his status to potentially winning a Cy Young this season, right? He's
Wow.
96 from the left side, hammer slider. He's developing that changeup, which was really good for him this year. He's got a curveball, he's got a sinker. It's just about staying healthy, and he's got the pitcher's body, right? You've been at the plate. A guy who's 6'4, 240 pounds, lefty 96. That guy, I think, can win the Cy Young. Who is
Mm,
your guy who maybe it's not a guy who has done nothing and then now is
yeah.
going to elevate, but maybe just a guy on the brink of greatness?
Dang, that's good. I'll start with the pitcher is I'm really high on Brian Bayo from the
Mm.
Red Sox. I think he's a guy that's got the stuff. Now I think it's about just mentally putting it all together. I think he ends up being the ace of this staff here, and I think he proves that this year as long as he gets like kind of the offensive support, which they pretty much got last year, but I think he takes a huge step forward this year. So I'm excited to see kind of what he does. Another pitcher too that I was thinking about is Hunter Green from the Reds. I think the Reds are a team that have a lot of energy and they're a team that is looking to move forward and kind of be a top tier team. I think he ends up kind of showing up on another level because he reminds me of a Tristan McKenzie back in 2022. We were kind of like, okay, waiting for this breakout guy. We know he's got the stuff. He hasn't quite hit it yet. I think Hunter Green ends up hitting it at this point this season.
Interesting. I chose another Hunter. I said Hunter Brown, especially going into spring training with Justin Verlander for the very first time. And knowing that you're going to break camp in the same rotation as a guy that you have been tabbed as like mini Verlander, I think that helps drastically. The two hitters that I highlighted were teammates in pretty similar situations. And as a former Cardinal, you may appreciate this. I think the tandem of Jordan Walker and Mason Wynn could be huge this year. Like
Yeah.
Walker could scream 35 homers with a good start to the year. Are there any like young hitters that you think can really just ball out at the beginning of the year?
Yeah. Man, I think honestly, and maybe this isn't like a breakout because we kind of saw him do it last year, but I think Royce Lewis is about to be a superstar in this game for the Twins specifically. I think as long as he's healthy, you're looking at extreme power. You're looking at uh good discipline. You're looking at somebody that's kind of understood big league pitching at an early age. So I think he does that. Another guy too that I'm excited about but I don't know quite what his role is going to be is Christian Morel over with the Cubs. Morel
Yeah.
with the Cubs. I think we saw him go on this streak of like 7 home runs in a row. I'm high on the power guys. I'm interested to see if he'll play third base if they don't end up getting a Matt Chapman, which he needs to work a little bit better defensively. But I'm excited for what he brings to the table here in 2024 as well.
So because you have such a big influence on social media, I assume you see a lot of idiots in your comment sections potentially.
Of course, of
Is
course.
is there a player that you felt that has been kind of disrespected all offseason? I brought up one on a recent episode that Carlos Correa seems to just be falling down shortstop lists. And I'm
Mm,
like, guys, could we give him a second? Right? He was a little bit hurt
yeah,
during the regular season, obviously did not have a good season, right? But
right.
hasn't he earned it enough? And then let's say he faltered in the postseason. All right, maybe this is a little bit of a problem. Dude hit 406.
Yeah.
Guys who we need to just give a second. Maybe he had a down year last year, and you're seeing in comment sections getting no respect right now.
Dang, that's a good one. Man, I wasn't prepared for this one.
Yeah.
Dude, dang. Okay, I got one. I got one. You know who we've been down on is Tim Anderson. He went from being one of the best shortstops in the game to literally the worst.
Yep.
And I think that given the right opportunity, and it might be at second base,
Yeah.
but I still think the Marlins could be a great fit at shortstop. I think bounce back material, opportunity to get back to hitting 300, getting on base, doing his thing, hitting for some pop. I think he needs that just change of scenery and like a different vibe. And I think he could be that guy.
100%. All right, last thing for you, and this is for both of you guys. Uh, Cover athlete for MLB The Show just dropped. Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Mm.
Immediate thoughts. Peter, you first. I know you are.
I didn't even know it dropped. Did it
Yeah, it
drop
dropped.
today?
It just
Vladimir
dropped when we were recording.
Oh,
Vladimir
wow.
Guerrero Jr. put up one F4 last season, one more than all of us. Good for him. He's back on the cover. Great. No, I mean, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. cost me a lot of money, X. I'm not going to lie to you. I had a prize picks entry worth a lot of money, and he did not hit his hits prop, which ruined it for me. I watched him all season long tracking this, and I thought his approach at the plate was terrible, just to be completely frank with you. He's too talented of a player to go up and swing first pitch at a slider low and away and ground out, right? The amount of ground outs I see this guy do is unbelievable. Now, of course, I still believe in the talent. It's a bat that almost won the Triple Crown when he was 21 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
I realize the talent. And yeah, he's awesome. I do like him. When I was watching him in the home run derby, I was fired up. All right. I do still like him, but I have my issues with him.
Yeah,
I do.
don't sound like you like him, that's for sure.
I don't
Doesn't at
know.
all.
This is a big season for him. This is a big season. What do you think
Yes.
he's going to do this year?
Ah, man, I'm hoping he breaks out, man. I just like I think we just got I think we got spoiled early on with him. And I feel like he just came out the gates just like an animal, right? And I don't know if that's really him, honestly. Like I don't know if because of what you mentioned about the plate discipline. Like I don't if he gets back to being extremely patient, then we could see more of that. But I just been seeing him be so aggressive, like trying to do too much. Um, I just I don't know if he's really the VP player that we should expect to see. Now, if he gets back to that or gets back to doing those things, then okay, I understand. But I'm not going to put that type of pressure on him. But we did see it early, and it looked like it was sustainable, and we just haven't seen it the same way. Um, so I like the Guerrero pick because I think he's an exciting player.
Super.
But I'm more on the side of let's get a player that can do everything, like a really athletic player that can play great defense, can play, on the offensive side. We're always seeing him smile, having a good time. He's making plays all over the field, maybe stealing bases. Man, I needed Ronald Acuna Jr. Am I describing Ronald Acuna Jr.?
Yeah,
I
you
think
are.
you are.
Or TJ Friedel. Either of
Or
those two guys.
TJ Friedel.
Yeah, TJ Friedel. TJ
That's
Friedel, though.
good.
I'm not trying to make
I
fun
heard
of
people
TJ
saying
Friedel.
Mookie. I heard people saying it's Mookie's time. Like that could have been a great one too.
Yeah. Good.
Oswald Peraza?
Peraza for
His time.
sure.
Yeah.
Esteury Ruiz, that guy
Yes.
swipes bags. That
Yeah.
could have been a choice.
Zach Geloff?
Yeah.
My
X, you are the
gosh, that's
man.
good.
Thank you as always. It is always a good time chopping it up with you in the off season.
Hey, appreciate you guys, man.
Yep.
Always fun.
This is great.